What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining us. I am going to interview my buddy Blake today. Blake, thanks for doing this.
Alex, thank you so much for having me on the show, brother. Always a pleasure to link up with you, do content, but also since we're homies in the same city and we live like 5 minutes away by car, we've been hanging out a lot lately and it's been really cool getting to know you, getting to build our friendship. And I feel like we're like legit friends by now. Like you're my brother and I just really appreciate you, man. Looking forward to our talk today.
Yeah, man, very cool. Well, let's get right into it. First of all, we're going to mention your podcast. So, first of all, give people a quick mention of your podcast and then also tell us how long have you been vegan and what made you decide to go down this vegan path?
Yeah, for sure, man. My podcast is called the Fasting Lifestyle Podcast. Episodes can be found right now on my YouTube channel, and I'm working towards more distribution on Spotify, Apple Music, and make it more and more into like a legit podcast. That's my goal. It was always in the back of my mind as something that I wanted to do. Like ever since I was a little kid, I love listening to talk radio. And there was one moment where I was kind of like in between jobs and I was like this young teenager dude. And I was like, man, I don't even know what I want to do with my life. And my dad just randomly said, you should just be like a radio host or something like that. And for whatever reason, that one sentence that took probably a half a second to come out of his mouth has stuck with me for over 2.5 decades. And so when podcasts started becoming popular, I'm like, man, I love this. I love just listening to the conversation as I'm like doing something else because my mind has the ability to multitask like that. I've been able to learn so much from other people's experience and I'm an audible learner. I think a lot of people, they think they're visual learners or they think that they learn by doing, but I think they undersell themselves as to how much they can learn audibly, especially when you have a real conversation between people and there's like a wisdom and empathy that's being shared amongst them. I mean, before the internet, before technology, before the industrial revolution, that's how we shared all of our wisdom. It was stories that were passed down from the elders on down generation by generation. So I just love the format. I got started doing it, and when I started doing it, just the joy that I felt, not only interfacing with my guests and the friendships that I've built as a result of it, but also even just the little engagement that I'm already getting on my show. It's only a couple months old. It's helping people. And as somebody who was a former personal trainer since 2010, I was certified as a personal trainer. I love helping people. I have my own ugly duckling glow up story. Maybe we can get into that today. And so my objective has always been to help people have that same transformation that I had, but maybe in a faster sort of way than I did, or maybe in a more efficient, less painful way with a mentor such as myself who has already been through that process. And as my journey has unraveled over all this time, one thing has remained consistent, which is I just keep moving. I keep exploring. I keep pushing the boundaries. I keep pushing the edges because it's something I'm naturally interested in. I have other interests. I like music. I'm just like the next person. I like food, even though like I'm big on fasting, which we can talk about the juxtaposition of that as well. I know you really like basketball, but if you were to ask like Alex, like what is his thing that like really fires him up? I'd be willing to bet it's like the fruits and and the vegetables and this lifestyle. And same for me when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle. And so I eventually came into fasting in mid 2023. I had already been intermittent fasting for over 2 decades at this point. That's how I had a big weight loss experience in high school, which is basically just skipping breakfast is how I do it, even though you technically can't skip breakfast because the word tells you the answer. It spells out break fast. It just means the first meal of the day. So today, the first meal of the day for me was right before noon. And my eating window was typically between about around noon to 8 p.m. So that's something that's already been a mainstay in my life for quite some time. However, after my personal training career and I was transitioning back into corporate America because everybody was going remote after COVID. And I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to get back into the corporate world, being an analyst. And that's what my corporate specialty is, I guess, if you will, in order to collect myself after years of nonstop running around personal training people, because I felt this drive within me, whether it was divine guidance. I think that it was like my soul or some sort of divine intervention that keep pushing those boundaries, keep taking your journey, farther. It's okay you're a personal trainer, it's okay you're a yoga instructor, but there's something more that you need to discover. There's more experiences that you need to go through. And I was allowing myself to relax and heal after that career, that it was my own fault that when I'm passionate about something, I just burn the heck out of myself. And that's okay. And I'm already doing it with the podcast, but I have better balance now. But I'm just like cranking out. This is my third episode today that I've done, and I have one
Wow.
more after this. And I
Wow.
say that to brag a little bit because I'm just super proud of my podcast. It's like it's my child, like it's my baby. And
Mm,
I just feel so happy that I finally found something, that I'll be able to do. I had the vision today during yoga that I'll be able to do this, and for the rest of my life, I want to have thousands of episodes. But I
mhm,
digress. As I was feeling pushed farther to continue kind of recuperating after my personal training career, I had burned my adrenals pretty hard. I was hitting the coffee really hard. I had some injuries in some of the sports that I was doing. I had torn cartilage in my ribs from Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So one of my friends said, "Hey, this kratom tea stuff can really help with your pain." I'm like, "Oh man, it does help with my pain, you know." But what didn't help is how addictive it was. So, I had to detox that stuff out of my body. And also a concurrent running theme in my life was taking my journey deeper, right? So I'm healing myself. I'm also taking my spiritual practice, my spiritual journey deeper. And then they kind of coincide when I find fasting, because here's this method that I can heal my body with. I can overcome the adrenal fatigue. I can get off coffee finally. I can get off the kratom tea finally. And then also, it's a very deep spiritual practice, or so I had heard at that time. So I'm like, all right, I've got to try fasting. So in May of 2023, I did my first longer term fast, which, full disclosure, I was still putting lemon in my water. I was still having tea. I was taking these 0-calorie electrolytes with, sugar-free flavoring, some BCAAs that were 0 calorie with sugar-free flavoring. So it was a very, not a hardcore water fast like, the stuff that I'm doing now. But albeit, I went 4.5 days without chewing and swallowing hard, physical food. And for me, that was a huge experience. Towards the end of that experience on day 4, I remember running up to the LA Fitness along the Pinellas Trail behind my apartment. It's a half mile, and I just ran to the gym and I sat in the sauna, even though I have a sauna in my apartment. But, I was just, this fast was making me feel like super, super energetic, and it's kind of crazy. And I think what was actually happening is my body was detoxing a lot of those stimulants out of my system. And it was like kind of like getting me high again type of thing, for lack of a
mhm,
better way of saying it. And so
uh-huh,
I'm sitting in the sauna, kind of like half like jittery buzzed, and like half like not feeling so great at all. And I'm like, whoa, this is cleaning me out. So, and then I come home, and then a little bit after that, I have an elimination. And what came out was this black sludge stuff, and it was like putrid, rank smelling. And I knew that it could not have been the BCAAs, it could not have been the electrolytes, it could not have been the tea that I was taking. And it clicked in my head that, wow, that stuff was stuck in my body. And because I had just gone through that experience where I was like feeling the caffeine come out of my body. I mean, people have stories where they can taste cigarettes on their mouth during a fast, or they can taste the chemicals of a pharmaceutical that they were tasting or that they were taking as a kid in their mouth as they're going through a fast as an adult after not having taken that pharmaceutical for decades. It's a remarkable tool to help clean yourself. So I think that got me really excited about fasting. I subsequently did another fast, and this time I was going to go like 7 days. I wanted to beat my record, you know. And since then, my thoughts have I've kind of chilled out. So don't worry, I've chilled out on like the you always have to fast longer and beat your record type of thing. But I think you and I are kind of the same on that. That we're competitive people, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep, yep.
But I go 3.5 days, right? And
Mhm.
then I have almost a virtually identical
Mm,
movement, and my body went through the same exact I go through the fast, I have my little ups and downs, and then had a movement just like my first 4.5 day fast, but this time it happened in a condensed amount of time.
mhm.
Another light bulb goes off. Aha! It's like a muscle memory type of thing. It's like my body knew, oh, this guy's not going to feed us again. I guess we have to go into the cleaning mode again. And so it happened faster. And then so I wait another, I don't know, month or month and a half or something. I try it again. This time, the same exact thing happened in 60 hours, which is 2.5 days. I'm like, "Ugh." So then and that was the end of 2023. So all throughout 2024, I was doing these 2.5 day fasts sprinkled around and getting even just from with the lemon in my water, with the electrolytes, with the tea, getting amazing results from just a 2.5 day fast. And
Mhm.
the science will tell you that, oh, well, you get a little autophagy, you get a little fat loss or whatever. I don't care what the science says. It was amazingly effective for me in not just a physical way, but also it was starting to change my relationship with food. And this is where the story gets really exciting because now I'm making new friends. Old toxic relationships are falling away.
Mhm.
I'm doing better at my job and getting a bonus and, a raise and stuff. I'm making new friends. I make these friends who are a Hindu family from India
Mm.
who are vegetarian. And as you guys know, I'm a yoga instructor. When I did my yoga certification, I was also enrolled in full time online college at the same time as I was a full time personal trainer and doing my yoga certification. So, regrettably, I didn't have the chance to geek out on the subject matter as much as I would have liked to. The Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, the Yoga Sutras, and just really learn the science.
Mhm.
So through that family, not only was I transitioning into vegetarianism, meaning no meat products, no flesh products, no death required per se. You can
Mm.
still have ghee, butter, curd, which is the same as yogurt. You can have eggs. So, and I but I also was inspired to revisit the yoga teachings, and I'm like, wow. So the fact that I feel less violent, that's one of the tenets of yoga. It's actually one of the first rules of yoga called ahimsa, which is non-harming. And so I'm going through 2024, I stop sport fishing, which I was doing. I just didn't have a desire to go mess with the fish on my kayak. Whereas before, I mean, I was catching barracudas and sharks that were as long as my kayak. I mean, I was the guy. I was that guy holding up the fish in front of the camera.
Yep.
And I start losing weight. I start all the things that I already said and more. And my life is just drastically changing. Now, as you know, I keep on pushing the limits and pushing the boundaries, and I can't help but be this autodidactic, meaning self teaching dude exploring. And like I told you earlier, the spiritual side of my interests started to coincide with the physical side. And I was kind of taking that vein and whatever the algorithm would feed me when I would click on this creator or click on that creator or click on, this video and that video, it actually brought me to the raw foods and the juicing. And so I'm like, okay, I got to do a juice fast because then I can go like really long. And then, it looks cool. He's got this Nama J2 juicer. The juices look delicious. I have this thing where I'm a Pisces and I'm very into liquids. I'm very into water. I've always made really delicious sauces and dips and salsas. And people
Mhm.
like I come to the party that people don't say hi to me. They're like, "Where's the salsa?" I'm like, "I'm a person too." And so I'm thinking to myself, like, this juice stuff is perfect for me. Let me try this. And I'm also getting hypnotized by the power of raw foods as I'm starting to learn this natural hygiene stuff. And I think you had Freely, well, I know you had Freely on your show recently, and like that was such a great interview. So for anyone watching, go and watch that interview with that Alex did with Freely. And one of her things is she talks about how humans are designed anatomically very similarly to the great apes, which are your chimps, your bonobos, gorillas, and orangutans. Those are the only four great apes, unless you count humans as a great ape. But what they eat is about 60 to 70% fruit, about 20% like vegetables, roots, and shoots, just your vegetal matter, and then about 5 to 10% miscellaneous. It could be termites, it could be grubs, uh, locusts, or what we would call grasshoppers, or very rare occasion they will also hunt, but typically because their habitat has been wiped out and they don't have the abundance of food so they have to survive just like we had to survive when you know purportedly we were migrating out of the warmer tropic areas and into the colder regions where we transitioned more into an animal based diet. So that classification of eater, it's not a herbivore like a cow, it's not a carnivore like a lion, it's not an insectivore like some birds, it's not an omnivore like a dog or a bear. They're called frugivores. Why? Well, I just told you, because it's 60 to 70% of their diet relies on fruit. As Fraley would say, we're frugivorous. And she even coined the frugivore diet, which I got hypnotized by this because also as a kid, I was this nerd about like animals. You know what I mean? And so I love just looking at the teeth patterns. Our teeth are so similar to chimpanzees. We don't have these massive canines like omnivores or carnivores. And we also don't have these flat teeth, and our jaws don't move side to side like chewing the cud as a cow or a horse would do. And so, yeah, that brings me into the end of 2024. I say that, you know what, 2025, I always like to start my year actually with a swim in the Gulf. And I know the water's a little bit cold, but I've been doing that for the past 5 years now, ever since 2020. And I was like, it really fires me up. I'm like seriously getting amped up. And I'm like, I'm going to tear this year up. And I kind of psych myself up. I'm like, I'm going to go raw and I'm just going to see what happens. I've done long stints of keto, long stints of paleo before. And then my baseline diet has always just been a whole foods diet with minimally processed foods and then just very light on the animal protein, because the darker the meat, the more acidic it is on your body. So I've been pretty good my whole life, but I was like, you know what? I feel confident that I'm going to take the next step. So to super long-winded answer, 2025 is when I started with the raw veganism, eliminated even the eggs and any of the dairy that I had been eating in 2024. And with the exception of just a couple minor things, I think I had a piece of fish once this year. And I think I had some Indian food I was like, why does this taste so good? Oh, because there's ghee in there. And I kind of didn't realize. So I made, I guess, a couple little slip ups, completely animal free. Other than that, animal product free this entire year and mostly raw. So I guess we're coming up on 11 months.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we're about a week away from Thanksgiving here in 2025. That's super cool. Thanks for the answer. That was great to kind of give people the idea of where you're coming from and the different areas that sort of influenced you. I want to talk about one part that you mentioned. You mentioned someone with a Nama 2 juicer when you were finding these videos online about juicing and maybe the raw foods. Was there any particular, is that a particular person, or were there particular influencers or people online that sort of you saw when you were poking around these algorithms, these social medias, if you will? Like, were there folks that kind of appealed to you? Who were those people, and sort of how did that develop?
Yeah, great question. The first person that I found somehow, because I think the algorithm was promoting these channels where they're smaller channels and it's like minimally edited content. I'm sure all you guys have seen these, these videos going super viral, but it's just the most random video in the world. And I came across Dan McDonald.
There you
You know,
go.
I
I had a
come
feeling.
to find out he had the huge channel, got shut down because he was getting too controversial. And then he started his channel again. So I think he was popping in the algorithm because he appeared as one of those, ground up people, you know, unbeknownst to the algorithm, he's a former heavy hitter with, I guess, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I think his channel has been reinstated by now, but it was down for several years. And what Dan talks about is, well, his old channel was called The Life Regenerator. So just that the power of veganism, of raw foods, mostly fruit, and he's big on the juicing. He's big on the supplements, which I'm I'm a little bit lukewarm on the supplements. I think that there's a use case for some of them. However, I try to be as natural as possible, just, with the power of the fruit and vegetable in its natural state. But I'm not perfect either. I do cook some of my food sometimes and have some legumes and steamed squash, things like that. So, and we can talk more about that too, about how most of eating actually is emotional eating, really. And so that I don't feel qualified to tell anybody what they should and should not eat because it's such a personal decision that it's a journey that I can guide you on, but it's an individual sport like boxing or something. It's something you need to come to terms with and make your own boundaries. But I liked what Dan the Man was saying. He made the juices look so good, and the reason why, again, I think the algorithm hit him towards me was not only just because he appeared to be one of these up and coming channels, which I guess you could say that he was, but the fact that he was also mixing the spiritual side, the meditation, the yoga. He's really into like mindfulness, being in nature, these natural hygienic principles of having the sun hit your skin, breathing the fresh air, opening the windows if at all possible in your house, going to with the circadian rhythm, going to bed at a certain time and waking at a certain time, having temperance, not oversleeping, not undersleeping, not overeating, not undereating, and then mixed with the fasting. I think Dan did a 40-day water fast, and he's done a lot of fasting, and for the most part is a liquidarian because the man just seems to live on. Well, when he was when he was in Hawaii, still he was living on just like coconut water and some simple juices and some simple concoctions where he would make some yogurts with the probiotics and stuff that were plant based and looked delicious. I'm like, you know what? Let me buy the Nama J2 juicer. I ended up using, I want to say Fully Raw Christina or maybe Jillian Berry's discount code. Those were two other influencers that I came across. But then something that drew me more towards the natural hygiene side and maybe like the naturopathic side was when Dan would talk about Dr. Morse. And Dr. Morse is somebody who is staunchly against taking some of the supplements that Dan recommends, like the enzymes and the MSM, which is a sulfur supplement. And, so when Dan would bring that up in his videos, of course, it made me curious. Who is this Dr. Morse guy? And I instantly fall in love with Dr. Morse. And sometimes I talk about Dr. Morse like he's God. So forgive me. I know he's just a man and people have differing opinions from him. And even some of the natural hygiene people would say that the use of herbs is unnecessary and it's innervating and stimulating to the body, meaning that it's draining your chi energy. And that if you want to allow your tissues to heal, then the best thing to do is just to rest and fast. So there are a lot of different angles and nuances that I've come to know in this niche. But I think between Dan the Man, Robert Morse, and then just from Jillian Berry, she's got an amazing podcast and she's interviewed the who's who of all of the raw foodist fasting type of people. You've got Eli Martyr became really influential to me. I had the delight of meeting him at the Texas Fruit Festival a few months ago in Austin. The next one is coming up in April or May, I want to say. So you can check that out. Another one was Shane Sterling. I really took some of his advice on doing a juice fast and how to structure my juice fasts that I've done because he's kind of like the juice fast mucoid plaque guy. And I had some success using his method. So I know that some people disagree with what he says too. And so, before I kick it back to you, I just want to button this up with tying this back to my philosophy and my yoga background, is that I can learn from all of these people who they all disagree with each other in one way or another without having any sort of emotional attachment or any sort of aversion towards them. I think they're all beautiful, loving people, and they're doing the best that they can do to put this message out there that needs to be heard. And then it's up to the individual what resonates with them. And so I don't criticize or I don't debate with any of them and I honor that everybody's perspective. And that's what eventually led me a bit away from the raw foods movement. I felt like I didn't want to participate in that milieu of B12's good, B12's bad, omega-3, no omega-3, mucoid plaque is real, mucoid plaque is fake. And that whole debate culture that I wish people would just agree to disagree more and then just focus their efforts and attention on just teaching the message rather than the infighting, even if it creates more views. So that's when I started to do more soul work as a result of the fasting, which is like a whole spiritual metamorphosis in and of itself, which we can talk about later. I won't get too deep into it now before I hear your take. But I realized that because I had been intermittent fasting for 20 years, and then my origin story into the raw foods and veganism, being plant-based, was due to a fast. And I'm always successful. And it's something that all religions and everybody can agree on, because I like agreeing and I like creating a common ground. That's why I decided to focus on fasting and bring my passion for that modality to the forefront. That's why my podcast is called The Fasting Lifestyle. And then now my coaching practices, I still coach people on lifestyle and how to eat in between fasts, of course. And I've got my own philosophies on that. But I think that more and more people are getting interested in, I mean, I would even consider going on a fruit diet for a week, kind of a fast, or getting off of social media for a week, a kind of a fast.
Mhm.
So anyway, let's kick it back to you, Alex, and because I
Yeah.
could just keep going and going.
Yeah, appreciate your insights there. It's cool that Dan and Christina and Jillian, among others, helped you sort of, that was kind of your umbrella, if you will, to all this stuff. And there's so much depth and so much intricacy to it, like you said. I want to get into the building piece. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I wanna switch gears to your fitness and sort of how what you've done has impacted you. You mentioned that you were a personal trainer, certified back in 2010, and you've been on this health journey here since maybe 2023, and then you kind of decided to go vegan in 2025. You're a personal trainer. Like, how has what you're doing and the different modalities impacted what you do in workouts? Like, I know you're posting online when you're running, when you're doing this and that. Are there any numbers you can speak to? Are there any things that you're doing that sort of really illuminate and show the impacts of what you've been able to do physically from a fitness perspective?
100%. And great question. And I love I love that you asked me that, because I see myself as a new dude in this world of the plant-based world, especially when we're talking about like fruitarianism, raw foods, and especially with fasting. And I tend to be very modest and see myself with the beginner mindset, and that I'm learning from giants. I'm learning from people like yourself. I'm learning from people. I mean, you were at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and what year was it? Like 2014 or
13 and 14, yeah.
2013 and 14. I mean, that's remarkable, Matt. And I know your journey started, basically when you were born. You've been doing this your whole life as at least a vegetarian before you went fully plant-based. And so one thing that I can speak to very confidently, and from I guess an accomplished sort of, I guess I'm proud of myself, for what I accomplished, is my personal training and yoga instructor career. And, that started from a weight loss experience that I went through in high school. From being overweight, and you're going through puberty at the same time, and your parents are getting divorced and it's the winter and it's like, oh,
Acne
the
and all that
world
fun
is just
stuff.
kind of like, crashing in. It's like, no, I must lose this weight. And then I did. I had a glow up. I lost the weight. I felt better. Didn't have the depression. I had a renewed vigor for life. I started making an insane amount of money as a teenager, and everything went great after the weight loss. But what I didn't really expect to happen was that it would change how I looked at myself and how I looked at other people in terms of some of my tendencies that I was stuck in as being the overweight kid. And a lot of that had to do with allowing myself to be the butt of the joke, being a people pleasing type of person, not standing up for myself, allowing myself to be, the low man on the totem pole, just not, my self worth, if you just want to air quote that, or self love. Let's even just call it self love wa improved, as well as like my fitness and how I looked and all those other things that I was initially going for. So I guess my young mind was like, wait, I didn't imagine like all these like emotional, spiritual, feel good things were going to happen too. And like feeling empowered in my own skin. That's great. And then I was able to keep that weight off for up until now. So, that was a lot of experience in crafting foods that you can feel good eating and they're satiating, but you're not going to gain weight. My intermittent fasting practice, having my cheat meal or cheat day on the weekend, making sure I get my cardio in, doing different modalities of working out to kind of keep the body trained in different ways and different fashions. And all of those ideologies that I built up and those strategies I carried with me until the age of, I guess, when I was around 30, 31, when I became a full-time personal trainer after leaving corporate America. And then I did that career for about 5, 6 years and then went back to corporate like I told you. But when I started doing the plant-based diet, my working out and my fitness definitely did change. So for the viewers out there, listen very closely to what I'm going to say, because this is coming from a personal trainer perspective. And I've worked with thousands of clients. Again, I'm probably being too modest. And so I've helped a lot of people. And so I'm kind of like, I've got case studies upon case studies in my mind. And so here's what happened. At first, my exercise, it took a hit. I'm not going to lie. When you're living on animal products and these protein laden products, it's not just the protein molecules that are helping you build more muscle and recover. It's actually the protein is stimulating to your body, especially protein coming from an animal source, because you're not just eating the protein molecules that are in the flesh of the animal, you're eating the energy of that animal. You're eating their hormones, and some would even say that you're eating their fear that they were experiencing when they were in the conveyor belt to get slaughtered. Some would even say that you're eating their karma. So I think I was carrying around a lot of extra muscle, and I'm used to doing these crazy lifts, crazy deadlifts, bench. To give you numbers, my squat was 315, my bench was 275, my deadlift was 405, right? All those
Mhm,
numbers have since gone down. But
mhm,
I'm not really worried about that because I was artificially keeping myself with too much muscle on my body. Okay.
mhm,
And it's not a PED, you know, it's animal protein. But now the way that I think, I'm starting to lump those two things together, so my muscles are changing. I still want to feel like I'm getting satiated by my meals, so I'm drawn to eat more nuts
mhm,
probably than I should. So my muscles are shrinking a little bit, but I'm gaining more body fat. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is not this is going the exact opposite direction than what I want to be going, or the direction that I want to be going.
mhm,
So then I'm like, okay. got to figure this out. I wasn't going to fast until maybe March, So I started in January. I wasn't going to do my juice fast because I'd already bought the Nama J2. I bought the jars. I wasn't going to fast till March because my birthday is at the end of February. I was going to wait till my birthday so I could have my little guacamole and cucumber chips. I told you guys I had 20 plus years. I knew I already had a strategy of how I'm going to be successful going raw. And I had already been tapering down through vegetarianism. It wasn't hard for me at all to transition. In fact, I love salads. I love fruit. I've been doing that my whole life because I've been on the alkaline diet. I had just been eating a lot of eggs and chicken breast as well, and
Mhm.
more cooked food. So, as fate would have it, Alex, I'm in the yoga studio. I'm getting into one of these, crazy low poses, and my ankle cracked, like kind of like you would crack a knuckle. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, that felt good. Now I can get lower. That's cool. And then the next day, I can't walk on my ankle, and I'm like a grown man, like crying because it hurts so bad. I'm like,
Mhm.
like I think they were probably more so tears of pity and disappointment than they were of pain, but it was excruciatingly painful. And obviously, one of the other influencers that I came to know is Lauren Lockman, and he talks about the power of how fasts can heal you a lot. And he gives examples of these incredible injuries that he sustained and that healed remarkably fast. So I'm like, okay, let me do the math here. I've got about just over 3 weeks until my birthday. You know, let me do my fast now. My ankle goes from like a cankle, you know what I mean? My calf and the ankle are the same size and it's all swollen and bruised and disgusting to normal size. And I'm able to walk on it and then start jogging within a week. Within 3 days, I was walking on it. And I ended up going to my friend who's a kinesiologist and acupuncturist and stuff like that. And basically, I snapped one of my tendons and dislodged one of the bones in my foot. So it was like a pretty serious sprain and it healed on its own remarkably fast. But during that fast, I ended up losing a lot of that weight that I was gaining from eating too much nuts and too much cashews, right? So then I start to see what my body and my muscles start to look like a little bit without, all that body fat on me. And I start to be like, yo, my face is kind of like carving up a little bit, my arms and my shoulders, I'm looking more defined and everything. I'm like, I'm starting to look like how I did in my personal training career. This is kind of freaking me out because in my personal training career, I mean, some days I would have 11 sessions. You know what I mean? And when I say session, I mean either a class or a one-on-one or a small group. And so that means I wake up at 3:45 and I go to bed at like 10 or 11. And then I wake up and do the same thing again the next day.
Wow.
And you know what I mean? For years on end. And I'm usually working out with the client. And I remember I'm like, okay, I got to go teach a hit class at Crunch. And then that's my last class. And I can come home and I would eat all my food at the end of the day. It was a terrible, terrible cycle, terribly
Mhm.
unhealthy, but I was physically fit. And I would be like, all right, don't work out with the class this time. You need to rest. You need to heal up. You need to chill. And then I would show up to teach the class at, this hit class. And I'd be like, F it. I'm just gonna do it with everybody just to make it more exciting. Cause I'm looking around and like all these people, they're like wanting me to deliver this fun and exciting class. And there's like 3 or 4 people there sometimes. And I'm like, I want to give them a freaking amazing, fun class. I'll just work out with them. And so that was my mentality. I was just giving, 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 giving. And so I was working out incredibly way too much, but I got carved up and shredded and was looking pretty good. So to see myself like metamorphosing right before my eyes doing this juice fast, I was like, oh my freaking God. Not only is my ankle healing, but I'm starting with, a fraction, like a decimal point of the amount of work that I used to do when I was personal training. Now I can kind of have my cake and eat it too. Really? That's kind of crazy. And so after that fast, I break my fast, I start eating again, and then I'm a little bit cleaner this time. You know, I less nuts, less salt. I learned to have a little bit more quantity and allow myself to have these huge, bigger salads. And I start learning from my mistakes and then I'll do another fast. and then have more cleansing and more mucoid plaque come out and more fat loss. And then I'm cleaner on the other side of that one. Less salt, add in the sprouts, modify my eating window a little bit and do like more smaller meals just to pack in some more calories. And so throughout that whole journey, I've learned a whole way to basically manage myself to where now I weighed in at 177 pounds. And I'm going to tie it back to the beginning of the conversation when I said that the meat was stimulating in almost like a PED, which is for those of you guys who don't know, that's like a performance enhancing drug. So there's another influencer that I really like. His name is Aris Latam. And he says that when you go on this raw food, living food diet, as he calls it, that you're not losing weight, you're losing waste. So when you go on this lifestyle, the high raw, the high fruit, the plant based, because like I said, I'm not super dogmatic, guys. I will still cook some food from time to time. Just straight up, I'm the most honest man on the internet. Just ask me whatever. I'm an open book. You know what I mean? I don't like when people are posturing and saying things and doing things for views or clout or whatever. I'm just straight up real. And so now I've adjusted my set weight down 20 pounds. Okay. So those big lifts, my deadlift is at 315. It's gone down. My bench is at 225. It's gone down. My squat is probably, 275 if I'm lucky, maybe a little bit less now. So these are not big numbers for anybody who knows these numbers. So it's not like I'm trying to sound sensational at all. My top end power has come down. What has come up significantly is my cardio, my flexibility, my ability to do calisthenics, my ability to do long bouts of sauna and ice bath, my ability to do martial arts and be acrobatic and quick moving. I know these are not like the quantitative numbers that I wish that I could give you. This is more of a qualitative in how I feel, but that 20-pound difference in my set weight from the mid 190s to the mid 170s, now that I'm not artificially stimulated by these excessive proteins, and I'm not the type of dude who was even overdoing it in the first place, as you guys know by now. Now I'm starting to think, yo, is this my natural God-given weight actually? Okay, now we're on to something. Hygiene, the natural hygiene, naturopathic, this movement that I'm super interested in, it's about longevity. It's about your health span, not just your lifespan. And it's about prolonging youth late into life via natural means, not by taking rapamycin and, getting laser fat removal treatments and stuff like that. Okay, these are natural methods. And so my belief is that you find your set weight, the weight that's your natural genetic adult set weight, and then just maintain that and drop the ideas of how much my bench max is, drop the ideas of how big my muscles are, and get a little bit of that ego and that vanity out of the way. And now I'm feeling better. I'm sleeping better. I'm sleeping less and feeling more rejuvenated. I wake up at 5 o'clock every day now, miraculously. Oh my God. Like I told you, I'm doing 4 podcasts today and I'm still like full of energy. I probably won't even be able to sleep till pretty late tonight because I love doing this. I love sharing my story. But at the same time, it's like, you know, I look different. I look smaller or whatever, but I look just exactly the same almost as I did 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And even my hair, like everything, as somebody who's 39 years old, it's completely rejuvenated. And so whether or not you're big on the juice fasting or the water or the dry fasting, even just eating more water-rich live foods like fruits and vegetables, you're going to have massive results. Drop the need to be this inflated person that society tells you you need to have these big muscles. Learn to love yourself exactly the way you're designed. If your set weight is 150 and you're like going 175 because you're pounding the protein and pounding the shakes, and then you start doing this lifestyle and you start losing your muscle, Just wait. You're going to look like Bruce Lee. I wish I could be, that shredded. It's just not my genetics, but I love my genetics the way that they are. And I've learned to love myself. And it's almost like a part two or a sequel of that original transformation that I had in high school all over again 23 years later. So this has been the best thing that's basically happened in my life since then. I can't wait to see where the calisthenics, the yoga, the cardio goes for me. I'll still work out and I'll still do those lifts, even though they're not as good. It's just something that's ingrained in me by now that I like doing. But your fitness game is going to change. And I hope that I've given the audience like what to expect and how their body's going to change now that they're not pumping themselves with this artificial stimulation anymore, but actually that it's a good thing and to just relax, let go, allow those changes to take place because you're going to feel a lot better.
For sure. I mean, there's just so much good stuff that you mentioned there. I really think that your journey has been inspiring, and that your fitness is there, and you feel good, and that the equity, if you will, of feeling good is so important as opposed to these specific numbers. I do wanna kind of lock in on one thing here. I feel like you're really good at meeting folks where they are, no matter where they're coming from. You mentioned just about folks incorporating more water-rich meals. Let's just say someone's watching this, they're not in this lifestyle, if you will. They're curious, like, what is one thing or one step that someone can take today that can really help them and make the change? You alluded to those water-rich meals. Like, can you expand on that for someone that just, maybe they don't want to be vegan, or maybe they're just curious. They just want to do something to feel better. How would you respond to that? What's your take there?
Great question. And I'm going to give two answers. And the first answer is the answer that everybody hates, which is it depends. And just real quick on that answer is what's your why? Like why are you feeling like you need to make a change?
Mhm.
Why are you feeling like this might be the answer for you? Sit with that. And when you brush your teeth in the morning tomorrow, look yourself in the mirror in the eye. And I'm saying this like with a straight face seriously, and just look at yourself and honor yourself. What do you need? What is best for you right now? This is important. You are important. You deserve the best out of your life. There's not enough time. You need to make a decision now. How do you want to live the rest of your life? And so have that serious talk with yourself. And then from there, it depends. But I'm super passionate about how my journey went. And if you remember, God threw me into this broken ankle situation, knowing that I would find a way to heal myself,
Mhm.
even though I kind of have a deformed foot now. Not really, but kind of. And remember what I told you guys, the juice fast, right? So whenever I go to the gym, I'll go to, my friend's house who are not in, I call them my normie friends. They know I call them that. It's so sad. And I mean that with just love and respect, because they think I'm the weird fasting guy because I'm like around all this food. They're like, Blake, try this. Blake, try that. I'm like, no, no, thanks. No, thanks. You know what I mean? So I'm the guy, I'm that guy for them. But no matter how much I tell them about the water fasting, the dry fasting, the raw foods, when I bring juice and they try like an apple cranberry juice, like we had at our Friendsgiving,
Yeah.
or they try this faux apple cider that I made, which was just apple juice with some fresh cinnamon sticks mixed in with it, two ingredients, and it tastes better than any apple cider I've ever had in my life. Oh, with lemon, actually, to give a little tartness. They
Sounds good.
all love the juices. And because the biggest transformations that I had in the beginning of my journey were two juice fasts. One was 23 days, one was 42 days. So 3 weeks and 6 weeks roughly. That's what I would recommend people consider, is that they do a juice fast. And if they want to do a juice fast and not have it be so strict and so like time consuming and cost intensive, one thing that I coach that I don't think I've seen anybody else coach it like this is where you do a modified juice fast. where you allow yourself certain fruits at certain times of the day. And I have a protocol on that to where it's like a fruit and juice cleanse. And that has been, people freaking love that.
Mm.
So obviously, I'm a little bit biased there because that's the way that I did it, and I had amazing results of my own.
Mhm.
And just for the record, I haven't even launched like my coaching platform yet. So I'm like not trying to sell anybody on this at all. I'm giving you like this is how I did it, and this is what people seem interested in. So I would strongly consider looking into maybe some of these creators that I mentioned. You know, Jillian Berry is like a good one because she just talks to everybody about this stuff. And there's so many videos out there of I did a 3 week cleanse and lost 30 pounds. I did a 6 week juice cleanse and healed diabetes and all this crazy, amazing health benefits. And then from there, right, then we can start tapering you down from your animal products or from your processed food or wherever you're at in your life because what ends up happening when you're practicing self-control over the eating and when you're doing this sort of fasting, whether it's a modified fruit and juice fast like I recommend for beginners, or if you get into some of the more extreme stuff, it kind of changes you and it kind of shakes loose those old beliefs and those old patterns, and you can't help but have your taste buds renewed and a renewed sense of self-worth, like that conversation that you guys are going to have with yourself. And then you kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you're like, I am worth this. What am I going to start eliminating? And you start with the easy wins, or as Alex and I would like to say, you start with the low hanging fruit, right? You start eliminating the fried foods. You start eliminating the heavily processed foods. You start making replacements. If you like pasta, stop getting the wheat pasta and the enriched flour. Maybe start replacing that. Maybe that will help you. And again, I have no hard fast. You have to do it my way or not. These are just recommendations. Maybe start intermittent fasting. That was a big one for me. Just
Mhm.
don't eat until noon. Just have like a fruit in the morning and some water or whatever your morning beverage is. Like for me, it's an herbal tea. And so I've got a million little tips and tricks, but just my overarching recommendation, just what I feel called to share with everybody is do something that's fun, that tastes good, that gets you excited, that gets your mind moving in the right direction because the mind steers the rest of your life, and do something that's going to make a big boom right away because that's going to shake you loose. And then those other changes. Oh, I just did a 3 week fruit and juice cleanse. And you're telling me that I just shouldn't eat these Doritos anymore? Piece of cake. You know what I mean? So it builds a lot more than just, your ability to lose fat and heal your body. It's like that willpower piece. And then that taking that sovereignty over your life and that responsibility, those muscles and those other unforeseen things, like I told you what happened to me when I was a kid, and all of a sudden I build that sense of self-love. Those things are going to start happening. And so yeah. Uh, Definitely consider doing something a little drastic if you want to make a big change. And then all those other small changes are going to happen easier and quicker. And then that stuff starts really adding up. And then what you do is maybe you do another cleanse and then you refine it even more because you don't know the things that you're going to learn from during the fast and then after. Remember, I told you I was eating too many nuts. I was eating too much salt. I wasn't eating enough. When I was eating, my meals were too big. And I learned all these things. And now I've got it kind of down to a science where, you know, I can have my cheat day. We were at that Friendsgiving, like I said. My weight kind of went up to 181 and I knew that was going to happen, didn't beat myself up. And then I just do my normal thing. I don't do anything special, right? Like, oh, I need to do a fast to lose the weight or whatever. Just do my normal thing. A few days later, I'm already back down to 177. And so that's my natural weight is the mid 170s. And I'm like, oh, thank God,
Mm.
I've got this figured out. You have a sense, most people, when they start, they have a sense of they feel powerless. And so doing something like this gives you a sense that you are now powerful.
Mhm. Very cool. Let's continue to empower folks based on your journey. I think that's an incredible pursuit and something that can help so many people. Let's shift into the spiritual realm here. So you've talked about how fasting and all these changes that you've made, I feel like not only changed your body, but in a large way changed your mind and who you are as a person. What has that journey been like, and all these different modalities? How did the yoga, the raw foods, the juicing, and the mindfulness, how have all these things changed you, and what kind of inner peace or sort of inner conversations that I feel like most people have conversations with themselves. How have those changed? How has sort of your temperament changed over time with this journey?
Dude, once again, I love your questions, Alex, man. And thank you for asking me that too. And I just love our conversations. You know what I mean? Like, whenever we hang out, like, our combos just go deep right away. And so, like, I feel like I'm just having even though we're recording this for the podcast, like, we're just having a conversation. I just love this, man. And I love what you do. I love the work that you do and how you empower people too. You're like the connector. I don't know how to describe it, dude. You're just driven to have these events, to bring people together, to help people, and you'll give people the shirt off your back in a blizzard, as my family from Minnesota would say. And I love you, man, and I honor you. And you know, maybe I wouldn't have been able to feel that so strongly beforehand because I would have been so self-centered on myself, or
Mhm.
so thinking in the future, or thinking in the past. And
Mhm.
now I'm here present with you, talking to you. And as I'm
Mhm.
looking at you and looking in your eyes and fielding your questions, I know my mouth is moving a million miles a minute and I'm sitting here blabbing and it's not coming from my thought. My mind is blank.
Mm.
This is coming from my higher self. And I'm just literally speaking from the heart and speaking from my soul.
Mhm.
You know, when I was a personal trainer, yeah, I could talk and I went from kind of like a more of a nerdy musician type of smart kid. Something inside me was saying, okay, do the personal training thing, be a group instructor, be a yoga instructor. It's going to prepare you for your YouTube career. Because I wanted to do this since a long time,
Mhm.
but I wasn't spiritually ready for it. Although the divine, I just say God, whatever your word for it is, was guiding me and having me do these exercises and these drills like a drill instructor, preparing my body, preparing my everything to be able to be this guy that I am now. I'll tell you something really honestly. I was, talking boastfully before about being the honest dude on the internet or whatever. I used to think veganism was kind of weak.
Mhm.
You guys probably hate me for even saying that. But before your red flags go up and before you get flustered,
Comments. Let's go.
just look at this man before you who I'm humbly saying, I'm sorry. You know?
Mhm.
I used to think it was kind of weak and that we needed meat.
Mhm.
That was that inner monologue that you were talking about.
Mhm.
It wasn't even a possibility in my mind. I tried it one time just to try it, like in, I don't know, 2015 or something like that.
Mhm.
And I lasted a couple months and I was like, I can't do this. And I started eating eggs and then that led to chicken and yeah. So that's the part of it that what I think happened is when I was able to leave the personal training, let myself chill down, revisit the yoga stuff, build new friendships, start doing these sort of modified water fasts, if you will, that was starting to give me the relief from those addictions to stimulants. I was starting to chill out my adrenal system. I was building my career in this online pathway as it allowed me to work remotely so I could explore where I'm taking my journey and learn about other things like esoteric sciences, hermeticism, other religious things. And so it's all kind of unfolding at the same time, And as that's happening, a separation is starting to happen, which is what I wanted to happen basically between the old Blake and the new Blake that was emerging. And the way that I always describe it is I wasn't like going shopping for a new Blake and like, oh, I'm going to take this one. This one looks pretty good. Or I'm going to take this one and try this one on. You know, it was actually the opposite. Taking off those costumes, taking off those masks, getting back to that bookworm excitable dude who liked to share his toys when I was a kid. When I look at people, I'm just like, I bet we would be such good friends if we were kids. We would be playing with, Matchbox cars and Legos and all kinds of stuff. How
Mhm.
cool would that be? But all this adult stuff turns us into monsters a little bit sometimes.
Mhm.
And so I've just started to become less of a monster, and that I started to kill that shadow, or at least let's not even use an aggressive word. Let's just say I started to illuminate my shadow and then realize, oh, there's a reason why I had those defense mechanisms there. And there's a reason why I shifted that angry side of me away that would only come out at certain times. Well, there's some gems in there. Apparently, I'm a very driven person. Apparently, I can be really focused when I want to be. Apparently, I can get a hold of a subject matter like natural hygiene or fasting or raw foods and just take it to the nth degree and work tirelessly. Certain things that I was unearthing from this shadow work that I was doing. Maybe my judgments of whether it's veganism or other people or just in general, maybe that's because I didn't like the person I was and I was judging myself. And then I sat with that without self medicating and being off of alcohol and marijuana for the last like 2.5 years or something like that. I don't know, for a while. Wow. That's okay. That's okay. We all make mistakes. And then here I am now. And, looking back, I'm making it sound pretty intense, but I've always been a nice guy. I've always like wanted to help and wanted to be a good dude for people. But this lifestyle just helped me to take that to the next level, you know, and really put some maturity on me. But it's paradoxical, guys. That's the trick. Is you have to hold these opposing paradoxes in your mind at the same time. Is that you're maturing, but you're also like returning to your original self at the same time. So maybe that would be my advice for everyone when they're going along this journey and now they're starting to separate from their old self and their old friends, their old environment, maybe even a job, a partner, family member, apartment, something. It's not resonating with their new vibration.
Mhm.
What used to make a really nice, sexy chord progression, and now it sounds like, blah. Maybe it's time to just let go and just let the universe arrange things for your greater good because that's going to happen inevitably, whether you resist it or not. And that's what happened for me. And I just started to let go. Certain old friendships and old patterns went by the wayside. Like I said, I started to make new friends. I made friends with that Hindu family. What a blessing from God that is. How could you make that up, Alex? That I would meet a Hindu family that would not only re inspire my love of yoga, but lead me into vegetarianism, which was a perfect taper down into this raw food movement that I had no idea I was going to be a part of.
Mm.
You can't make that up.
Mhm.
So these miraculous miracles are going to start to happen when you freaking drop the ego judgments like I had that vegans are cuckoo because you need to eat meat and it's just weak, you know, to the person that I am now. When I'm going to Tampa Veg Fest, I'm going to the Fruitarian Festival, and I ordered a Chipotle a few months back, and a little piece of chicken was dropped in there. I didn't see it. I start chewing. Ugh, I spit it out. It disgusted me. And I actually took that moment. It was like half funny, half tragic. In retrospect, I was like, I'm proud of myself that I feel that way now, you know? Because there's no need to put like the flesh of a dead something into your body. Like
Mhm.
I can just eat fruits and vegetables. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I have the proof in my physical body, in all the history on my social media and, throughout this entire year of how my transformation has proved that to be true.
Mhm.
And I'm, as you know, I'm only just getting started now, but it happens quick. So just to tie that back in with, what we were talking about before, with if you feel like you need to make a change, whether it's physically or spiritually, just go for it and just allow those things to happen. It might be a temporary pain or discomfort, but what you're actually doing is you're escaping that suffering that you were in,
Mm.
that you may not even knew that you were in suffering. It's like ripping the band-aid off. Only hurts for a little bit, but then that's what this has felt like for me, brother.
For sure, man. What a great answer. Your journey is definitely inspiring and it's just gone in so many different directions. And that's part of what's so cool about this lifestyle is it just changes you in so many ways. I want to ask a quick light question. I'm honestly curious here. So you mentioned how friends will sometimes offer you food that you don't want, but I've also seen you during one of your fasts go to a produce market with tons of fruit and tons of things purchased and right at your fingertips and not eat it. How do you sort of I know the fasting has been transformative and a real shift for you, and it's really part of your foundation, if you will, of your regime. But how do you go like you've gotten into the fruit and veg, as you mentioned a few times. How are you able to go into an environment like the wholesale produce market with tons of fresh, ripe fruit and veg, like when we got those pears, etc., and not and stick to what you're trying to do? Like, how do you do that? What's sort of your method or your philosophy there?
Yeah. Wow, thank you, man.
I gotta ask.
No, I mean, thank you. Like, just humbly, it's something that I can do. I can't play the piano very well. I'm not the greatest at calisthenics. Our mutual friend Brian, like that dude can just do muscle ups and he can, I'm not the greatest at that. You know, as far as like self control and self discipline and almost like self deprivation, if that's a thing, like maybe that's one of my skills or whatever. And just to add a little bit more flavor to that answer, I'll give you kind of like two little examples. And, one of those examples is when I was a trainer, I used to kind of like, I would have this thought from time to time, like almost in like a half joking way, like, am I like a little sadistic? Because like I got a little bit of pleasure out of seeing my students like getting their butt kicked in a really hard workout that I was doing. Like, why am I getting like some sort of pleasure and satisfaction from watching these people suffer? Am I like, messed up in the head? But no, you know, what I was witnessing was they were putting work in on themselves that was helping them. And I was giving them a form of maybe guidance or tough love or something that was helping to push them beyond what they would normally do on their own. And I cared for them kind of like my own like family in a sense. I'm just very gregarious. Like if you're my friend, you're my friend. Like it's like, you know what I mean? So that's something that I have always been able to do and be that guy. Whereas I've witnessed that not everybody would naturally, be able to do that, or they don't think that they could do something like that, like a long fast or be around food or, and still hold themselves back or live in a family of animal products consumers and they're trying to go plant based. And, you know, that's something that it just doesn't enter my mind as something that would ever even stop me at all. The thought doesn't even enter my mind, to be honest with you. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. I have no problem being the black sheep. I have no problem, being the weirdo because I've been kind of in that position. I put myself in that position where I've separated myself from my peers and tried to excel and be a leader pretty much my whole life. All right. So the other part of the answer is well, I gave you a couple examples of silly things that I'm not so great at. One of those being calisthenics. Although it's not my greatest subject, it's something that I want to learn. Now that my body's lighter and now that I'm valuing working out outdoors and not being in a gym where I'm breathing all this meat breath. No, just kidding. But sometimes I feel like I can smell it. But so guess what? Brian's actually coaching me on calisthenics and teaching me a couple pointers. And I'm humbly letting this, ripped, shredded dude, you know, teach the old personal trainer guy how to have better form with pull-ups and better form with dips and how to work my way up to a muscle up and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So if you think that maybe this lifestyle isn't your like natural strong suit or your ability to have self-discipline or whatever in the beginning, then maybe work with somebody. And so, if that sounds like a cheesy sales pitch, I'm sorry, but I have coaches and it's okay to have somebody help you and to have a community.
Mhm.
If it wasn't for you, dude, and Susie and Kevin with Tampa Bay Raw Vegans and the Texas Fruit Festival and all those different influencers that I mentioned
Mhm.
and Brian and the list goes on and I'm sorry if I didn't remember you, then I wouldn't be where I'm at today either. I was just able to apply my weird ability to, restrict myself for long periods of time and find something that matches with fasting. You know what I mean? It's just kind of one of those weird matchups that happened in this lifetime for me.
Mhm.
But so, you know, maybe if you guys want to hit me up, like, and when the time comes and think about joining my community is called Fasting Academy and it's a case study of fasting, and every week we talk about new, whether it's science or we revisit the old hygienic books and we showcase different people. I have different guests in the community. It's a comprehensive like group interactive coaching experience, and it's a really legit thing. And then from there I have my full-blown course, which is called Fasting Mastery, and that's for the people who really want to like have this as part of their lifestyle and get more of a one-on-one immersive experience with me. And other than that, it's just free content. You can DM me wherever you want. I respond to all my DMs, at least for right now, until I'm like too busy. But I'm like addicted to my phone anyway, so I'll probably answer you anyway. And then what else? Yeah, I for Black Friday, I have a freebie coming out. And the freebie is going to be a fasting guide. It's going to be like a cheat sheet for you and what of any of those different types of fasting that you want to do. And it's going to give you a lot of the context where it's like it's the science, but it's not given to you in like a jargony, like over my head type of fashion. It's like the science mixed with my real world experience and what the science actually translate to it as to how I was feeling in those different stages of my fasts. Because I've studied the science and it's really remarkable what happens at different stages of your fast, whether it's autophagy, ketosis, different things that happen with your immune system. And so it's really remarkable how that coincides with how you feel, And so to have somebody to tell you that in a non-scientific way, it's going to be a freebie. It's going to be invaluable. I'm giving it away for free. And that's also going to be like your ticket to a discounted rate on my course for the start of the year. So that's what I have going, man.
Very cool. We got time for one more question?
Yeah, man.
Let's go. Okay. So in basketball, we'll often refer to certain players as students of the game. I think that you're kind of a student of the game here, of the raw and the health of lifestyle, right? You're not only immersing yourself in the podcasts and in the books and all these kinds of things, but you're interviewing these people, getting a lot of their experiences and what they learned, and then mashing that up with the other studies that you're doing as ongoing studies and also studies from your past. You've only been doing this for almost a year. Like, what would you tell yourself if you were starting now? And what are some key lessons as you've gone on this journey that have really stood out and helped you?
Patience.
Mhm.
It's all in your head. Slow down. Stop trying to swim upstream.
Mhm.
Allow. Live in the present. Enjoy. It's okay. You're okay. Just the way you are. You're here for a reason. You're doing exactly what you're meant to be doing. You're in the right place at the right time. things are unfolding the way that they're supposed to be unfolding. You're going to get to where you're going. But the twist is that where you're going is going to change. You think you're headed this way? Along the way, you're not going to find what you think you're heading towards. You're going to find you. You're going to find your heart connection. And then you're going to realize it was actually that is what I really wanted. Don't define yourself with materialism. Follow your heart. Touch other people's hearts. Bring joy in your life and share and spread that joy to other people's lives. The money will come. The success will come. Redefine your idea of success. You're already successful. You're already wealthy. There's no need to judge yourself or think less of yourself or compare yourself to anybody else. You are a valid human being. You're impossible mathematically. It's impossible for any human being to be alive on Earth. The statistics of these molecules arranging themselves and then a soul plopping in there, impossible. You're a miracle. Life is long and short at the same time. The more that you're in the present moment, the longer it is. The more you care for your vessel, the longer it is. The more you love and the more you laugh and the more you live, the longer it is. The longer you last, the longer you stay young. The more you fret, the more you worry, the more you stress, the shorter it is. Work your ass off, but have fun doing it. Don't forget about your friends. Don't forget about your family. Take breaks. Allow yourself to feel feelings, but be the observer. Don't be so narcissistic that you think that you're your anger or you're your frustration or your sadness or your feeling of inequity that the world's not fair or that you're a victim. It's a figment of your imagination. Live like every day is your last day, while at the same time, live now in a way that is building your wildest dreams because they're just right around the corner.
Yeah, man. Poetic stuff. Definitely giving a lot of purpose and good way to round out this conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time and also just taking us through your journey and how you've gotten here. Are there any kind of closing thoughts or things you'd like to leave people with?
Nah, man. I mean, Alex, you're my homie, bro. Like, thank you for having me on your show. Like, I want to do more content with you as well.
Hmm.
And we've got to catch up with on some other stuff off the air. I know we're going to hang out tomorrow. We're going to the wholesale produce market actually on Saturday, not tomorrow, and I can't wait. And so yeah, let's just keep this momentum going. Let's keep this sharing going. You know, you're my friend, you're my family, you're my brother. I love you. And to all the people watching, wherever you're at in life, you got this. It's easy work. It's a piece of cake, and you're worth it. So get it done.
That's right. That's right. And Blake's channel and information will be linked down below. Again, we appreciate it, Blake. And for everybody, hope you learn from this. Let us know what you think in the comments. Check out Blake's content, and we will see you again. Peace.